But we've got Curtis Glencross waiting. I'm excited about this interview. Kindersley guy, played his junior in Brooks, played his college at Alaska Anchorage, and then in the NHL, 507 games with the Flames, Oilers, Blue Jackets, Ducks, and Capitals. We think of him as a Flame, of course, and he joins us today. Curtis, how are you?
I'm good. You guys?
Good. We're very well, thank you. Where do you join us from today? Where are you hanging your hat these days?
I'm just northwest of Calgary and on an acreage in Bearspaw. It's called, just about 15, 20 minutes from downtown Calgary. And I've got a little section of land out here and hanging out here with the family.
So let me guess. Riggsy was with us last hour and said he just, when he saw this coming, loaded up the family and went to the cabin in northern Saskatchewan. For you, my guess is, other than having your family at home right now, not a lot has changed. Am I right in terms of self-isolation? If you're out northwest of Calgary on a section of land?
Yeah, not much. Not much has changed with us. I've kind of been homebound here the last while. We had our fifth child in January, so we've been kind of hunkered down as it was. And so when this all hit and came upon, we've kind of just been stuck at home. Besides having a few extra kids around the house that aren't at school, obviously that's been a little different of a change. But other than that, it's for us the grocery store we need, and that's kind of about it.
Well, like most, obviously enjoying the extended family time then for sure. And we've had a lot of former CFL and NHL players on NFL too over the past couple of weeks, and I would like to get your take on this. If you were still playing, has your mind gone there as to how you would stay in shape, what you'd be doing, and how you'd be dealing with this if you were still playing?
You know what? That's tough. Not every guy obviously has a setup at their house where they can actually, be lifting all the time and that kind of stuff. So you have to go and set up your own kind of gym and go that route. But I can imagine with these guys, there's so much uncertainty right now, and they're just kind of going through day to day, kind of waiting to see what's going on. And it's tough to push yourself because you don't know when there is an end in it too, right? So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when it all turns around and comes back. And obviously they came out yesterday talking about possibly doing a playoff kind of thing in so many remote cities, and even that's tough. It's as a player, you're playing in front of your friends and your family and your fans, and it's tough when you had to go to a remote place and have no fans in the building. That's part of the game.
It's funny. How much are you following what the Flames are doing? Sounds like you're pretty in tune to it. They made the coaching change with Bill Pedersen in November. Let's just say they come back, Curtis. What are their chances of contending, do you think? Because they're obviously in the mix. And as we've learned, you get in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot here, obviously X and O in the first round against Colorado, and it was a big learning curve for them. They got a lot of returning guys, a few new faces. I still think, I thought they were going to do a little more of a push at the deadline and try to add another top six guy, and possibly another demon, but that obviously really didn't happen. So, it all depends. Like you said, when you get in the playoffs, it's a whole different game. And you hit a hot goaltender, or the Flames, it seems like they're big guys were starting to actually turn it on a little bit towards the last little while before it shut down here. So and you need scoring through your lineup, and they were getting some some bottom six guys contributing, and that's a huge part of success going into the playoffs.
Curtis, it's Darren DuPont here. You talked about your family, and congrats on the fifth child. That's a big part of going and playing in remote centers. If you got to go and isolate in a city and stay there throughout the playoffs, you potentially got to leave your family and stuff like that. How much, how difficult would that be for the players, or is it something where, we play in the NHL, this is what we got to do, and it wouldn't be as big of a deal?
I think it takes a toll on your family when you're gone. Obviously, it's I see it now that I'm away and at home all the time, or most of the time anyway, and just the stress that it puts on your wife and your other kids. And I pretty much missed my first two kids. I missed pretty much most of their toddler years, just being away all the time, because when you're on the road, it seems like that's the time you get to talk to them a little more, because when you're at home, you're in your routine, you're at the rink all the time, you're on game days, you barely see your family unless they come, or you see them before you go out the door, kind of thing, to go to the game. And because you're at the rink pretty much most of the days. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it'd be tough. It'd be tough on families to, I don't know how long they're saying that, it's all going to last and kind of be the duration of the playoffs and how they're going to run the format of it. But it's definitely been, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And it's definitely hard on families.
Curtis, lastly, as you know, here in Saskatchewan, we get the Flames games every night. We're in your region, so we watched, feels like, every game you played with the Flames. Can you give us an update on your life now? Clearly you're working. You're dressed like a worker. What's Curtis Glencross doing now?
You know what? I was with the company and got out of it in January. And, when we had the new baby, I'm just actually being a dad and staying home, and we just moved into we built our new place out here in November. And so I'm outside doing yard work and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my plan outside for landscaping. And I got a couple horses here that got to be fed every day and need some hours on them. So between chasing the kids around and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my place here, busy.
Well, sounds like life is good. Real good. And by the way, one of our viewers, by the way, Chris Hubbard, whom I've nicknamed Chuba, he's just written in and he says, as an Oilers fan, I hated seeing Kevin Lowe let Curtis walk after a 15-goal season from the third line, Chris writes in. How much are you watching the Battle of Alberta, Curtis, and where do you fall on that? Are you getting as much enjoyment as everybody is, especially with what happened this year?
You know what? I think it's great to see rivalry back. It's something that's Albertans and anyone that's an Oilers or a Flames fan definitely missed. A little battling from the East, and for it to turn around like this and have Chuck come and play his role and but I give to Chuck a lot of respect. He kind of got that rivalry going again, but he did step up to the plate and obviously wasn't. I don't agree with 100% on his hits of what he did, but he stood up to the plate and fought Cassian when he had to, and it's brought that rivalry back, and it's fun to watch them games. It's I think I read something that the next game after that Battle of Alberta, when it all happened, the TV ratings for hockey had gone up a lot in that for that game, and it was a high priority game. So that's something that we need, and it's great. Like I said, when I played in Calgary most of the time. Our biggest rivalry was Vancouver, and it turned in more of a battle with us and them. And now it's fun. You're only 3 hours away, and you have that battle. It's definitely makes the games exciting, and they're fun to watch.
Do you ever get back to Kindersley?
You know what I do? My brother lives in Kindersley still now, so he's out there, and so my parents are going to end up being back there, retiring back there eventually in Brock, just outside of Kindersley. So it's definitely, we're there a few times a year to visit and go and see. And we've done a couple charity hockey games there. Our Flames alumni the last couple of years. My brother's on the committee with the junior club there in Kindersley, and they brought our alumni back and played a couple games, fundraisers for the community and for the hockey team. So anytime I get back, I enjoy going. I love the atmosphere and being around. Obviously my friends and family.
What's your brother's name?
Brother's name's Matt.
Matt. Okay, there's a Glencross that tweets us all the time. Must be some sort of a relation.
Oh, really?
Glenn. Yeah, does it sound familiar?
I don't have a Greg, but there's no Glenn. Yeah, I don't know.
I'd have, maybe it's Greg Glenn.
So that's their name. That's might be their in Battleford now, but used to be
right.
Fast.
I'll look into it. It's a Saskatchewan thing. We're all connected, as you know, in some way. Well, Curtis, I appreciate it. Right. It's Greg? It's Greg Glencross. Yeah, that's what it is. So
yeah, he's my first cousin. So
there you go. You knew that it was not too far off the family tree. Curtis, I appreciate the visit. I'm glad everything's going so well. Continued success, and stay safe out there, and hopefully we can do it again maybe in the playoffs.
Sounds good. Thanks, you guys as well.
Curtis Glencross joining us from Northwest Calgary, 15-20 minutes out of downtown Calgary.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.